Awesome. Hi,
Hi,
Brad.
Brad.
Thanks for
Gl-
joining us.
Yeah, glad to see you made it.
Hi, good to see you.
You too.
All right.
We've had a
Well,
few tech problems, but we're getting going here.
yeah, we've definitely been struggling. So if you could see me, this is what I would look like normally. I'm Autumn. I work for ASU Project Echo. I'm a coordinator, and I'm also now a nursing student getting my master's entry to nursing practice. I'm also the newest student member and secretary of the HPNA Phoenix chapter. So lots going on over here. Any questions that go into the chat box, I will help answer those, monitor all of that, and kind of fill in the blanks while Deb is presenting. Speaking of the HPNA, I'm going to put some membership information into the chat. If you're not already a member, there's lots of benefits to join. You don't have to be a nurse to join. There's lots of other specialties, even though it's a nursing association. So definitely look into that. If you have questions, let me know. And then today we've got Miss Deb Rashad presenting. She is our chapter program chair. She's a registered nurse, end of life doula, and she has so many other um, experiences that make her qualified for this. And she is so cool. And I'm glad that you guys are here to learn from her. And with
Hi,
that,
welcome everybody.
I was going to pass it over to you, Deb. Take it away.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, first of all, I'm delighted to see that some of our colleagues from San Francisco chapter have joined us. Um, I had a great experience with that chapter. I served in leadership positions for almost 3 years that I was there, and then I moved to Arizona. So I've been an RN for many years. I basically had a focus of acute care nursing for about 30 of those years. And then I did take a break due to burnout. Guess what? Burnout was an entity even 20 years ago. And I spent the next 10 years in a role in professional development, which was not nursing focused, it was business focused, but boy, did I learn a lot. And then I came back in 2002 as an acute rehab nurse, traveled for 10 years as a travel nurse. And then the last 5 years I spent in acute care. I transitioned to being a nursing home surveyor for CMS and CDPH, the California Department of Public Health. And then my last role and my best role was as a hospice nurse. So with that said, welcome. We're glad that everyone is here today. We also have some folks we have registered folks from obviously from Arizona, but we had some folks from New Jersey, Oklahoma, Texas, Minnesota. So hopefully this is telling us that this is a timely topic. So we're here today to discuss session 2. Session 1 was modifying end-of-life planning to appeal to underserved communities. And as Autumn mentioned, there is a video available on that if you wish to view that. Then session 2 today is empowering positive action. So what we want to talk about and focus on today is, okay, we've seen the research study, we've seen some of the results, and now we want to see how we use this information, both personally, professionally, as well as through, hopefully through our organization as well. I want to take just a quick moment here to give a shout out of thanks to Althea. Althea was the co-facilitator for session 1. Due to scheduling conflict, she could not be with us today, but we're very appreciative. She's one of our newer members, and Althea has a national presence as a patient advocate, and she has her judicial degree, so we're delighted to have her as a chapter member. All right, as far as communication for today, we want to encourage you to communicate. A big change between session 2 and session 1 is that we want to focus more on sharing and communicating for this one. So you could do so by keying in your question or comment in the chat room. And Autumn is going to help me keep an eye on that so we can answer your questions. Or you can raise your hand virtually, and we'll also keep an eye on that as well. Then to give you a heads up, the chat option will remain open about 15 minutes after the official close of the meeting. And the reason for that is at our first session, we were kind of blown away by the discussion that we had in the chat room afterwards and felt it was highly relevant. So we're going to record that today if anyone wants to participate. Overall, overarching, this session is meant to be in alignment with our chapter creed of engaging, empowering, and elevating palliative and hospice care for everyone. I was so excited when I learned about this content because it really speaks to what any of us who are dedicated to hospice and palliative care, would you agree we want to be able to share this information. We want people to know about our services so they could take best advantage of them. Next slide, please. Our learning objectives today are to create positive value statements that will help identify what are the benefits to our patients, to healthcare providers, to our team members, to the public, and of course to underserved communities. That is what you will find in session 1. I hope you will take some time to look at the more in-depth version of the slides, and we will have that link again for you later today too. Second, we want to initiate a communication plan for sharing the data and general knowledge of the modifying messaging content. Third, we want to begin or create a personal action plan for implementing this messaging into your professional practice. Now, I will say the slides and the presentation from the Massachusetts Institute for Serious Illness Care, they are focusing on getting the word out to organizations like the ones that you work in, hoping to get a mass kind of a tipping point for sharing this information more effectively. However, we feel at the Phoenix chapter, this information is just as relevant for us as individual practitioners. So we hope you will start an action plan today if you've not already started one. Then we're going to spend some time. The final objective is identifying some methods for maximizing positive change. And one of the key things we want to focus on is what are early adopters and how can I utilize early adopters to ensure the success of this initiative. Next slide, please. Okay, we have a little quiz and Autumn's going to help me with this. We would like you to respond to. So just click on your response. Short 2 questions.
Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking.
Okay, I think we've probably given enough time, hopefully, for a quick quiz. Okay, so we see that the majority of you recognize that that is false. Why is it not as simple as being nice and kind with interacting? Who has some thoughts on that? Because some of us feel that that's the basic requirement to engage, is to be nice people, and then we can engage with folks. How might that be different in your experience? And again, remember, you can also respond in the chat room.
I've seen where, like, some of our nurses can be very friendly and very nice, but the family will kind of relay to me that they don't have the confidence in the person because, okay, they're nice, but they're not necessarily knowledgeable, or at least conveying that knowledge.
Aha, and so that also speaks to the messages that we're sending when we're communicating with those family members and patients, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else have a thought on number one before we move to two?
Well, I think that it's, really important to be nice, but the key here is good assessment skills, good compassionate listening to the family, all of the things that we bring in beside just being nice. We engaging with people on a deeper level is really important, I think, in hospice and palliative care, and understanding their needs.
And that speaks right to question number two, saying that effectively engaging with patients is crucial to building therapeutic, respectful, and
Yeah.
trusting patient relationships. It looked like we had complete consensus that that is definitely true. So let's take a little deeper dive into this topic today then. So one of our objectives was that we want to develop positive value statements that identify the benefits of a service relationship with stakeholders. Now, this is customer service lingo, which this is actually what we're doing. We are looking at the ways that by modifying our messaging, we can provide better service to our patients and our clients. But we all know we have a holistic bent, particularly being, again, palliative and hospice professionals, that it's more than just talking to the patient. We heard Helen reference the importance of listening to the family and the comments of the families. So some of these stakeholders could be patients, or depending on your delivery area, it could be clients or significant others of patients. That's one of the things that was reinforced for me in session one is, we sometimes will say loved ones or family members, and I'm thinking I'm going to be referring more to the significant people in your life. The stakeholders are definitely our other employees and our team members. And let's not forget a very important piece in this, a critical piece, is also our organizational leadership and our management team. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what I'm asking you to think about here today is, what are some of the positive messages that we can start building and sharing? And there are so many opportunities here. Again, at the first session, we talked about some very specific strategies for messaging. We addressed the Caucasian, we addressed the Black culture, the Hispanic culture, and the Chinese, which those folks up in San Francisco know have two dialects to deal with. So, some of the challenges there. So what we want to do, the reason I'm asking you to think through what these positive value statements might be, is so that you can start more naturally incorporating these benefits into your conversations, especially when you're reaching out to underserved communities. Why is that important? That's going to help us engage better, correctly, or right? That's going to help us engage if we're speaking to them in a way that they can relate to. So let's think for a moment broadly when we're thinking about modifying our messaging. What might be some potential benefits to the patients or the significant others when we can give them these positive statements? How will this help us in engaging, and how will it help us in making sure that we are communicating in a way that they value? Who has thoughts on that? What is the benefit for a patient or a client if we can clearly tell them the benefits of our services? And you know, I don't have a good picture of my chat room. I need to get that up. Any thoughts on that? How about, so I will throw out some ideas. How about a benefit of a positive value statement is that the patient will feel like their personal needs are being met. They're being personally taken care of. What is important to them? Remember, the one question was, what does a good day look like for you? And if we start with that, how might that help the patient feel either better understood or that what they bring to the table is important? How might that make a difference in our communication with folks? Another thing we'll be looking at a little bit later is how these value statements are things to be considered in communicating with our team members as well. They're things to be considered if, let's say I watch this this webinar and I'm very excited about it, but I'm the only one in my organization who has, as far as I know, yet seen this information. How will I communicate this to either my boss, leadership, or management so they can understand how this might benefit our patients or our clients? So these, let's go on to the next slide, please. So here's some examples of some from the first session of some of the messages that they encourage us to say. So let's take a look at, tell your doctors what matters most to you. How could that be a benefit to our patients to be talking to them? And of course, as we're talking, hopefully we're educating, we're listening for what their needs are. And a patient says, you know, I don't think that my doctor really listens to what I say. And I might say, well, let's talk a moment about how you might share what's really important with your doctor. Why does it matter, or how does it feel important for you to be able to share these things with your doctor? So see, what I'm doing here is I'm forming some open-ended questions so I can link this benefit to them personally. Let's look at how you can have a say in your care. How might that be a benefit to our patients? That they feel confident and able to say that. How might that benefit our patients in being able to say that? Any thoughts on that? Then let's look at the flip side. If we don't see a benefit, you can have a say in your care. The flip side, what happens if a patient feels like he or she can't have a say in their care? How does that impact our communication and what we want to say? So these statements I've posted up here for you to give you some examples. Again, we will also be referring to the messaging toolkit in a little bit, and you will be able to find more of these statements and more information for you to start integrating into your conversation to help modify the messaging that you're bringing to your patients. So again, if the patient feels isolated from the healthcare system, or we found what a lot of patients related that people said that they wanted to have time for them, that they didn't really believe that they were going to have time because of their past experiences of sitting in waiting rooms, waiting for doctors, not getting calls that they expected to get. So saying, we'll figure this out together. Regardless of your experience in the past, I want you to know that our team is here for you. I will call you back at my first opportunity, and I will follow up with you. We will figure this out together. Any additional thoughts or questions on this slide?
I think the big thing, if we're referring to palliative care here, I don't know whether we're referring to hospice and or palliative care, but the big challenge with palliative care now is the transition, the breaking apart of palliative care. A lot of patients, especially in minority or underserved groups, tend to think of palliative care as the same as hospice care. And so they feel like they're not going to have a say in their care. If they want continued treatment, they're afraid that, oh, they're just putting me in palliative care because they don't want to give me expensive treatment anymore. So addressing those stigmas and those concerns is really important up front. And one of the things that I know they recommend, CAPC recommends, is just, when you're talking to patients, saying we as a team want to provide the best care possible to you, and we really need your input. You're the expert on yourself, and we can bring that medical expertise in and partner with you to, like you said, figure this out together. So I think all those messages tie into the same thing: the fear of the healthcare system, the fear of palliative care being hospice, and then the fear of, powerlessness. Addressing all of those things, I think, is important.
And this is obviously very important for the patient's welfare, but isn't it also important for our welfare as providers of this care? One of the things I hear many hospice and palliative nurses saying is people still don't understand the difference between the two. So by changing the message and telling them that we'll figure this out together, one of the other positive responses that we saw in the survey was that people said they really valued the idea or the concept that there was actually going to be a team caring for them, that there was going to be a group of professionals that would help look after their care. Now, people might say, okay, Deb, you're biased because you work in the field, but I am also comparing this to my 30 plus years of experience working in acute care. I will tell you the team concept is so much more fully developed, functional, and working in palliative and hospice care. That's what I've seen through my eyes and my experience. So that is a benefit that we can make sure that we are communicating to our patients, the people that we are serving, so they know that there is going to be a group of individuals looking after them. Any other thoughts on the actual messaging or messages that you would send? And again, I would encourage you, there be a link at the end that will take you back to the toolkit that will have a lot more information on this. Okay, so again, we've talked about, we've already kind of touched base on, let's go to the next one. Okay, so we've spent some time talking about what are some of the positive messages that I want to start incorporating into my daily practice. And the toolkit will give us some ideas on that. How might I begin implementing them? That's what I want you to be thinking about. And then we want to think about how can we create a proactive response to change? Perhaps I'm not the only one that's heard the message, change is a constant. Is that something that we hear a lot these days? But yet, raise your hands if you've had the experience. Does everybody immediately welcome and embrace change? What have you found in your experience? If you would say yes, if you wouldn't mind to do, we'll do a little informal poll. Do you find that most people eagerly embrace change? Raise your hand if you say yes. Raise your hand if you say no. What have you found in your experience as far as people people being willing to accept change? Would it be a fair statement to say that oftentimes people resist change? So what we want, yes, I see a hand up there. Okay, yes. So what we want to talk about here is how can we create a proactive response to change? Even though we think these new messages may be the greatest thing, again, we're asking people to change a basic way of how they're communicating with others. So we've given you some pointers, some steps here to help you get started and to help facilitate what we call a more proactive organizational change. Number one is to pay attention to your team and organization's typical response to change. Now, when I say pay attention, you know, that's one of the things. It sounds like, well, of course I pay attention. But you know what? We get busy. We have a lot of things going on. And this is something that we sometimes miss that can help us kickstart a change program more effectively. Think about, how does my team or how does my organization typically respond to change? Do they have a positive bent, or do they tend to be negative? And one of the reasons we want to emphasize this is we are wanting you to choose a proactive response to change. So let's focus on the people who tend to be what we call early adopters. I'm sorry, there's a typo on that. That should be adopters, ADOPTORS. And this is based on the work of Cynthia Scott and Dennis Jaffe, who actually have worked in the San Francisco Bay Area for a good majority of their years, but they worked across the United States. And what they recommend to us is what often happens in organizations and in teams is that who's the most vocal person when we're introducing the change? Is it typically the naysayers, or is it the people who are for the change? In your experience, has it probably sometimes the naysayers or the folks who are negative, or probably more outspoken? So what we want you to think about doing is, I'm not saying to ignore those people, but remember, one, change is a stressor for many people. And for some people, they respond to stress in perhaps a negative way, or by verbalizing the negative, what they're afraid they're going to lose. Let's choose to focus on the positive, the early adopters. Who are the people in your team that seem to appreciate change or see it as an opportunity, as a chance to do something positive? So be thinking about that. Be thinking about, how do I typically respond to change? And is there a way I can turn my focus, I can flip my focus to not focus on the negative, let's focus on the positive. Who on my team is showing a positive, and how could I perhaps relate with that person and talk with that person and develop synergy there? Any questions on focusing on early adopters? Is everybody already familiar with this concept? Because if you are, I won't spend any more time here. Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry, we need to go back one more. There's one more thing I wanted to touch on. There's actually two. So if you are encouraging change. You want it to be positive. You want it to be proactive. One thing that can be very helpful is to ask yourself, am I communicating completely about this? And some questions to help you. This is a skill set that can be helpful to you at any point and place in your career, not just when you're dealing with change, is learning to be a complete communicator. So some questions to ask yourself so that you can feel that you're doing better in this regard is, who needs this information in order to do their job? Who needs this information in order for our organization to get this message out to others? Who else in the team or in the organization might be interested in this information? And then we also are asking, be sure to include your direct report in the leadership in your organization. By stopping and asking yourself these questions, you're going to ensure or at least significantly reinforce that you are communicating to everyone who needs to be a part of this change. Then the fourth one I have is lead by your personal example. That's one of the reasons we go back to number one, pay attention to your team and typical response to change. This is an opportunity to lead by your personal example. Let's go to the next one now. So as a reminder here, I imagine many of us have heard of Albert Schweitzer, a Nobel Prize winner, and he was known for his mission work in Africa. He built hospitals and made a tremendous health effort in Africa. His message to us is, example is not the main thing in influencing others. It is the only thing. So this is an opportunity for us to lead by example by communicating with our patients around these new messages and encouraging our team and organization to consider these new messages. Next slide, please. So why did I put a slide in here on personal reflection? I put a slide in here on personal reflection because this is the thing in our busy everyday lives that we sometimes push to the side. We don't give ourselves time to really think about and reflect on the changes that we want to make. I will say as a sidebar, some of you know that the Phoenix chapter hosts Death Cafe, and we are affiliated with the global organization, and it's geared specifically to healthcare professionals to relate their experiences around death and dying, and either personally or professionally. And one of the things that we honor in that meeting is we honor some silence, some time for people to stop and reflect, because we often find our greater inner wisdom by simply taking some time to reflect. So I encourage you, as you move forward in modifying messaging, think about how might this improve patient access, and how might this impact you in your work role? How might the team benefit from a more engaged public and patient base? Any thoughts on that? How would the team benefit by patients having a better understanding of the difference between hospice and palliative care? How might that benefit us as team members? Might that have any impact on your working relationship with the team?
You know, Deb, I
my-
think one of the challenges is it's not just the patients or their families, even our healthcare providers don't really understand the difference between palliative and hospice, and therefore they're not able to support our mission in trying to get patients to be open to either or.
Exactly. So a question might be, how are we, again, we can't control other people's thoughts or actions. I can control mine. So what am I doing? How might I better educate when I work with other providers to help them understand the difference? So there's always a piece of education that we can participate in as well. It might be saying something to either nurse practitioner or a doctor. You may not be interacting with that patient's doctors in hospice care, but in serious illness care, you may very well be doing that. So it might be encouraging the doctor to consider being more proactive and saying, you know, Dr. So-and-so, I have found that some of my patients with CHF who are really, really struggling, they're frequently showing up in the emergency room. Their family is stressed because of it's a chronic disease, but there's always something going on. You know, I have found that some of my patients or the people I work with do really well when they're on palliative care or when we're looking after their serious illness needs. And, you know, this is a part of the team. It doesn't mean that that person's doctor has to be excluded from the care. Now, we do know when patients go to hospice care, that relationship does typically change, that oftentimes the hospice physician will be more of the driver of the care. So again, my point is, what are the opportunities where I, as a professional, can be educating? Where are the opportunities that we as an organization might be better educating the public on serious illness care and what that means? Which drives me to the point, there's been some discussion, I know, in hospice and palliative care around, should we call it serious illness or palliative care? Well, one of the things we know is that palliative care is kind of a foreign word. So it might be helpful to say palliative care or serious illness to at least link the two. Now, how might the organization improve by us getting better at modifying these messages? Look at our demographics. What's happening? The population is not getting any younger, is it? It's astounding when you look at the projected figures of how many more people. They're saying, I believe it's 2030, that there will be more people 65 years of age and older than any other segment of our population. And this is a first. It will be a first. This will be huge. It will have a huge impact on healthcare and the care that people are receiving. And think about serious illness care, how we could be of value and benefit to our colleagues and to our patients by better modified messaging to let people know the difference between serious illness and hospice care. So what are some of the benefits the organization may receive if we have improved public engagement around advanced directives? What might be some benefits of that? What are the disadvantages to organizations when patients don't have advanced directives? Any thoughts on that? How about when patients don't have advanced directives? And as is often the case towards the end of life, their cares become more complex, not less complex. How much time do we spend in communicating and working? I'm sure our social workers that were signed up today could speak to this. How much time do we spend in trying to communicate and trying to understand what the patient's wants and needs are? If we are have the ability to improve our communication around advanced directives, might that not free us up to have more time to work more effectively, to be working on other things? We've already discussed the issue around that people still get confused between palliative care and hospice care. You know, we still have, I've heard nurses talk about how surprised they are that some physicians don't understand the difference between hospice care and palliative care. I'm hoping that our palliative teams, and I'm sure they are, who are inpatient, are working diligently to educate acute care staff on some of these issues. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on from here? So again, what I'm asking you to do is to do some personal reflection. Do personal reflection on, do you talk to your family, to your community about some of the differences between hospice and palliative care? Have you completed your advanced directives? And how do you talk to your patient, to your family, and again, to your neighbors about the importance of completing advanced directives, of having those conversations? Again, that's why we emphasize in our chapter, Healthcare Decision Day on April the 16th, as a way of starting to communicate and saying, these are important conversations. They're not one and done kinds of conversations. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder for us why it's so important to reflect on experience, because that's really what we learn from, is reflecting on our experience. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've got just, in fact, I'm going to, a little bit later when we go over resources, I'll actually pull up the toolkit. So for those of you, you will have a visual cue if you've not actually had the opportunity yet to get in and check out the resource. But I wanted to show you today its basic structure and how it is organized. Excuse me just a second here. It gives the five, I'm sorry,
I was gonna
question?
say, do you need me to stop sharing my screen? Are you gonna pull this up, or should?
I'll pull it up towards the end, and
Okay.
we'll just show everything at the end. So it will give you the 5 principles of what to base these conversations on, some steps and some pointers for better messaging. And again, remember, this is geared to organizations, but again, we all can use this information professionally. If you will find an advanced care quick planning guide, a guide to palliative care, communicating and messaging in ways that the qualitative study told us that this is the way people want to hear about this. They want to think of palliative care or serious illness care as another level of support to help them to live a better life now, today, in dealing with their serious illness. The Hospice Quick Guide, there will be an additional resource that we've added for you today that I hope you will take a look at. It's a 30-minute video, which is put on by the Massachusetts Coalition for Serious Illness, but it's also highly driven by Tony Bach and Marianne, I'm forgetting her last name right now, that we have their email addresses for you later. They are key drivers of the VitalTalk, which some of you familiar with the VitalTalk app that you can use. So this will give you some information, and the video, it's a 30-minute video, shares some success stories, and it goes on to also give us some additional pointers in terms of marketing and how we reach out to people visually to attract them and to capture their interest. Okay, the next slide. So we are asking you, as you move forward in your work, they are very eager to hear success stories. And we hope that as you run across success stories as an organization, they welcome hearing from you. And Tony said that please to copy both him and Marion. If you are sending information in, they look forward to hearing from you. And then I would say if you're experiencing some changes, some positive changes and success professionally, either as a hospice or a palliative provider, please feel free to share that information with me. I really believe that this is an opportunity for us as hospice and palliative care providers to take it to the next level, to make sure that we're effectively engaging, because again, if we don't effectively engage, then we can't hope to really to change things. So I encourage you to share this information. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So we want you to think about, what is your plan for getting started? For those of you who are, I know we had someone, I had an email this morning from someone who said that she was unable to attend today. She had signed up, but her plans had changed, and she was very interested in getting the information. And she said that this is so important because a good portion of my work is involved with, she's a nurse practitioner in New Jersey. Much of my work is involved with reaching out to those underutilized or those underserved communities. So please send me the information. So especially those of you, my feeling is that almost everybody we interact with is underserved, just because the comments we just heard, that people still don't understand the difference between palliative and hospice care. However, if we are considering equity in healthcare, we know that there are certain groups, and we've listed some of them, the Blacks, Hispanics, and there's certainly more than that. There's also some communities, if you're working in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a huge Russian contingent of folks who are being underserved in terms of hospice care. So what I'm going to encourage you to do as we begin to wrap up for today is to be thinking about, how might I communicate, or how might I better reach out to people regardless of what their cultural background is? Because in my community, Autumn, where was it you said that you lived? Was it in Minnesota? There was what was the large community up there that healthcare?
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota, and there's both a large Hmong community and Somali community.
So those are communities that some of us have never interacted with. So what I want to encourage you to start thinking about is, how can I develop my communication skills that I can reach and I can engage with a person regardless of what their cultural background is. And I believe there is a way to do that. So we're going to, so here are some questions for developing your plan further. Who do you need to reach out to within your organization to communicate about modifying messaging? How can you personally model and encourage early adopter behaviors, both in your personal professional practice and within your team? Because remember, many of us are working in teams. A friendly reminder, we will close this session at 1, but we will be available if anybody is interested. You want to stay on, that is your time. You may want to use it to connect with another person who's on the meeting today, or you are certainly welcome to chat and to have questions. We'll be glad to honor those. We want to thank you for your time and being here today. And I'm just going to open it if there are any other questions or thoughts before we officially close the meeting. I want to ask if there are questions because I don't want to miss those. And then I want to go over the resources and then we'll formally close the meeting. Any questions from folks right now? Terrific. So now, Autumn, can you give me permission to share the screen so I can go in and show these folks some of this?
Yes, you should already have screen sharing abilities.
Okay. So, okay, what I want to get to, so can I share from the PowerPoint slides?
Only if you have them, only if you have them already pulled up. Do you want me to put a link in the chat for you?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, and are we looking at the toolkit?
What I want to look at is I want to look at each of those resources very quickly. Can you pull those up for us?
Yeah, I can pull them up.
Yeah, that would be great. And the reason for doing this again, I think that for many of us, we're very visual. And so we want to give you an opportunity so that now when you go, it's going to say page not found. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but if you'll click on who we are, research and resources, who we are, this tells their vision and their mission for this project, the core principles of the project, then what we do at the top. This gives you more background and information on the work that they've already done. They've worked with a lot of they've worked with not only Vital Talk, but a lot of the organizations that are tied and connected to hospice and palliative care. Research and resources. Okay, this is where, if you'll scroll down, this is where you could download the report that we've talked about. That will give you, it's like 70, at least 70 pages of a PowerPoint presentation that will display for you the specific results and the data and how it's been analyzed. This is what we used when we went through and we cherry picked the slides for the first presentation. And then there's also a news and updates section, which will give you, see they've got Healthcare Decisions Day that's already passed. Can you scroll down a little bit? The second meeting that they had. And then one of the things that we'll be sharing with you in the resources, let's go on to the next group, please. Serious Illness Messaging Toolkit. So this is what the toolkit looks like. When you get in there, there are going to be tips for how to use it, how to improve messaging. They're going to already have some neat, let's just click on that one, Still These Messages. What they've done is they've assured that there are no copyright infringement issues. You are free to copy and use these as you wish. And you know what another advantage of this is if we use these things, it becomes a standard. It becomes something that people will begin to recognize and see. This is where you can see some key talking points on advanced care planning. And it tells you, please steal these messages, use them in your marketing, use them. And I'm encouraging you to use them in your everyday conversations with patients and family members. Okay, let's go to the next resource. ChangeWorks Lab. I just wanted you to be aware of this if you're interested in getting more information in terms of change work. This is Dr. Scott, and this will give you a link to the work that they're doing in positive change. I just want to say real quickly, I was originally drawn to their work about 25 years ago because it was originally based off of the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which I think all of us know working in hospice and palliative care. They equate change to a grief process. Okay, let's go on to the next one because we're running short on time here. Okay, motivational interviewing. This is something that is a passion of mine because I see it as a tool. Remember, I mentioned something about using a communication methodology that can connect us and engage us with patients, irregardless of what their culture, what their social economic status is. And I believe that motivational interviewing is the key to doing this. If you'll scroll on down, please, Autumn, I want to show them real quickly. So there are, even if you've not received formal training, or if you have, this would be a quick review for you, some of the steps of integrating MI, and then we go on down to the next page. Okay, right here, I share with you the OARS process, which is a fantastic communication methodology in and of itself to help you quickly establish a trusting and respectful relationship with all of your patients, but then to more effectively understand what are their goals, what is important to them, and how can we as a team best meet and serve those goals. And let's look at the last resource, please. The changing public perceptions. Oh, I'm sorry, motivational interviewing. Let's go back to that real quick. I'll be very quick on that one. This is a resource if you're interested in learning more about motivational interviewing. Who better to learn it from than the founders of the concept? Bill Miller, or Dr. Miller, in the middle, and then on the right-hand side is Steve Rolnick. And then on the far left is Teresa Boyers, who served 30 years as Dr. Miller's research assistant at New Mexico University. Just scroll down real quickly, please, so I could check. For those who are wanting to gain general knowledge, this could be appropriate for anybody on the team, the foundation of motivational interviewing. For those who are nurse practitioners, or hospice physicians, any physician could benefit by motivational interviewing in healthcare. Okay, now we can go to the last one, last resource. Changing public perceptions of serious illness care. This is the resource that I told you will give you the link to the 30-minute video, which I think will have helpful information for you. I think it takes a minute for this to populate. So this is how it will look, changing public perceptions of serious illness care. And you can see this is very recent updated information for you as of March 12th of 2024. So those are some resources for you and moving forward. We thank you very much for your time and your attention today. We wish you the greatest of success. Should you choose to be proactive and be a leader, I encourage each and every one of you to be a personal leader in modifying our messaging. And we are officially closed for our seminar, as it is, my clock says 1 o'clock exactly. We will be available. We'll hang out for a few minutes if anybody has a question you want to ask personally. We do plan to record the discussion. If you prefer that the recording be turned off, we are completely happy with doing that. We respect however you want to communicate. Thanks again for being here, and hope everyone has a great day.
Hey Deb, this is Helen. I asked if you could put maybe they're doing it now. Got it. I was kind of slow in typing. So I wanted
okay.
I just wanted to see the last link there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna send out the slides. If you registered through like the HPNA website, I'm gonna send them out to everybody who registered.
Okay, great. I did. Thank you.
And you know what, I forgot to say, if there's anyone left who is an Arizona resident, we wanted to share that we have a special event coming up. Do you have the date for the networking get together, Autumn?
Yes, it's gonna be June 21st. It's a Friday at the Keg in Tempe.
Tempe?
Yep, it's free for members with appetizers, and then if you wanted to bring a non-member, family member, guest, it's just a $10 fee for them.
So we're excited to have a live event, and the focus is networking and allowing you to interact and meet some of your peers. Any other questions or thoughts? How realistic is this? Can you see yourself integrating, modifying messages into your communication and how you interact with patients? Are there any barriers or concerns that you have? This is your time to ask questions and share, or to also give you time if you want to connect through the chat room with another guest who's on with us. And I think we have, are there 3 of us here in addition to Autumn and me? Is that what you're seeing, Autumn?
I see Lily and Helen. So it's the 4 of us.
Okay, okay. Any other
I'm-
thoughts, Helen or Lily?
No, appreciate the list of research of links. I'll be anxious to look into them.
Absolutely. We wanted to get some of those tools and resources in your hands so they could be used and hopefully shared. This is a program that I'm hoping that other chapters will see value in and consider sharing with their membership as well. Lily, I don't think we've met. Glad to meet you. Any questions or thoughts from you? How you see this working, not working, concerns, or we'd love to also hear what you see as opportunities, any of us.